Hey, before we dive in, if you're a new business owner who still doesn't have a website yet, I made something for you. It's a free 15-page guide that walks you through exactly what you need to launch your first website, what to skip, what actually matters, and the 5 steps to go from 0 to live. No coding, no big budget, no perfection required. Plus, you'll get 20% off my Show It templates inside and a free website trial. It's completely free and waiting for you at elizabethmccravy.com/first. That link is also in the show notes. Okay, now let's get to the episode. If you've ever had a baby and thought, I literally cannot do my business and motherhood at the same time, this episode is for you because I said those exact words out loud to my husband about 2 to 3 months after my first son was born. And I meant them in that moment. I was overwhelmed. I was so in love with this tiny human, and I honestly just wanted to be a mom. I did not want to think about my business at all. And here I am now, almost 5 years later, 3 kids in now, running this business I've had for a decade. And I have so much I want to say about what the journey has actually looked like. So this is the final episode in my 10-year business series on this podcast. And I wanted this one to be a really honest, candid conversation about how becoming a mom has changed the way I run my business. So not a highlight reel, also not a here's how I do it all episode, because I really, truly do not do it all. And we're going to talk about that. Just the real stuff that I often think goes very unsaid in motherhood. And so I have 4 things I want to walk you through, 4 real ways motherhood has changed my business with the befores and afters. And then I'm going to end with 3 pieces of advice specifically for moms who are running businesses. So whether you're pregnant and wondering what's ahead for you, or you just had a baby and maybe you're in that thick of the transition, or you've been at this mom and business thing for a while and just need someone to say some honest things to you, I think this episode is going to be really good. And one of those pieces of advice especially might surprise you, so be sure to stay till the end. And as always on this podcast, this is my experience. I'm not speaking for every business owning mom out there. I also don't know what it's like to have a business with older kids. My kids are all really young, but I do think so much of what I've lived in these last years of building a business as a mom is stuff that doesn't get talked about enough. So I'm excited. Let's talk about it. Here we go. Hey guys, I'm Elizabeth McCravy, educator for business owners, website designer, and your host of the Breakthrough Brand podcast. I'm a Christian, wife to my high school sweetheart, and mom to 3 sweet little kids. So yes, I record a lot of these episodes during nap time. On this podcast, I pull back the curtain on what it actually takes to build a successful, sustainable business, not the hustle till you drop version you hear about online. I've been a business owner since 2016, and I'm here to tell you this. You can build a business you love without burning out, sacrificing time with your family, or working 40 hours a week. Here you'll find episodes that are actionable, direct, and fun, like friends chatting business over coffee, with an honest look at the realities of motherhood, entrepreneurship, and navigating both with faith and purpose. You'll hear episodes on marketing, website design, podcast strategy, time management, and scalable income, while also talking about mom life, faith, and personal growth. If you want your business to feel purposeful, profitable, and aligned with your life, not the other way around, you're in the right place. It's time to build your breakthrough brand. Let's do this. Okay, so a really quick, helpful context as we start this candid conversation about business and motherhood. Whether you're a new podcast listener or a regular, I think this is helpful just to know where I'm sharing from. Just quick little intro here. So I've had this business for a decade, and that's what we've been celebrating on this series on the podcast. 10 years of designing websites and brands, teaching in my courses, hosting this podcast, and in the early days, doing things like social media management and various graphic design and marketing things. My business has changed a lot. And I have 3 kids, but I had 0 kids when I started my business at 22 years old as a newlywed. I got pregnant with my first son at the end of 2020. I was about 4.5, almost 5 years into business, and he was born between year 5 and year 6 of owning my business, just for context. And then since then, in the last 4.5-ish years, I've had 2 more babies and very close together. So my younger 2 kids are 16 months apart in age. So we had 3 under 4 when my third was born. And I've never done full-time inside or outside the home paid childcare for my kids. So they've never been to full-time daycare. I've never had a full-time nanny, because at least for me, ever since becoming a mom, again, this is about my own experience, but ever since becoming a mom, my work took a step back because I truly wanted it to. Like that was what I always kind of felt like I wanted. Like I always was like intrigued by the idea of being a stay-at-home mom, but also really loved my business. So I was like, let's figure out how to like make this work. And my husband's work has also been through many transitions since we've become parents. Like he was actually in graduate school when our first was born and now works full-time as a mental health counselor. Before that, he worked in ministry. So he's had many career shifts too. We've had like career changes as we've become parents, and our childcare setup has looked different for each kid and with each additional kid. So anyway, I won't get into all that, but that's me. And I've done business both before and after motherhood. And I will say it is very different. I think it's so insanely different, honestly, running my business in those pre-mom years versus now. And both are amazing and beautiful and wonderful. And I look back on those years when it was like just me, my business and the volunteer work I was doing, and obviously like friendships and faith life and my spouse and all that. But it was very different. And I think back on that, I'm like, I'm so glad that I built my business the way I did back then pre-kids, because it is benefiting me now so greatly in this season where I am working less and have 3 kids. And again, both are amazing and beautiful. But even though my business is the same business, I don't and can't run it the same. I don't think about it the same. I don't focus on it the same. And that is all okay and great. And that actually leads me to like the first point I want to talk with you. Like I said, I have 4 points we're kind of going through that all kind of blend together. That's why I say this is more of a candid conversation. But the first point I want to talk about with you is motherhood changed my business slowly over time. So it wasn't dramatic, but it was slowly over time. And again, we're talking about the ways that happen. But I think, and this is why I really want to share, I think there is this expectation we put on ourselves, or the world puts on us, society puts on us, that we are supposed to have a baby and then go back to all the things we were doing before and do them the exact same way we were before. And that's not how it works. It's even like that bounce back culture with our bodies. You hear the same thing can be applied to our work life. Being a mother literally changes your brain. It reworks your priorities. You're not the same after. So yes, your work life will change some and potentially a lot slowly over time. That tiny human truly will change your entire world, and in the best way possible. And like I already shared, I truly just love being a mom so much. And with business, it's not a like drastic overnight change. Like you don't birth your baby and then all of a sudden your business is very different. For me, at least, it's been slow, a slow shift in the way I do things, a deliberate adaptation of things, a refining over time. I have a story I'll share, and I mentioned in the intro, I shared this actually with a business friend just last week. We were on a walk. I had my daughter Sophia with me while my boys were at preschool, and she has a really successful business and is about to become a mom for the first time. And so we were talking about this, and I told her the story of like when I had my first baby. Within the first 2 to 3 months of him being born, I truly felt and said out loud, and this was even while I was on maternity leave still, I said to my husband and to some friends, I cannot do business and motherhood. I don't want to do both. I was super overwhelmed by it all. And I was in this like, I cannot do it all. Like I can't handle it all. Like this is too much. And I felt like balls were dropping everywhere. Even though I did a really great maternity leave plan, I executed the plan well and all that. I think it was like the mental overwhelm more than anything else. And also this desire as I was learning to be a mom of like, just to be a mom. Like my heart wanted that in the crazy transition time. And I was just so in love with my son. I still am. He's amazing. But I didn't want to have to focus on work. I just wanted to focus on him and all the learning that came with becoming a mom. And for me, going from 0 to 1 child was my hardest transition as a mom, because it's the most drastic change, right, in your life and in your business. And that's what I would say to you guys too, is if you only have 1 and you're thinking you want 2 or 3 more kids or however many, the hardest transition in your business is probably going to be 0 to 1, not 1 to 2. 1 to 2, you've already done a maternity leave once. You already have systems in place. You've already like delegated more in a lot of those things. So it does get easier, not harder on your business, like the transitions will, I will say. But anyway, yeah, going from 0 to 1 was the hardest. And when I think back to my new mom self that felt that way of like, I can't do both. Again, almost 5 years ago now, she wasn't failing and she wasn't ready to quit her business. Although I actually do think that's a very valid decision to make. Not a bad one to stop business or stop working outside the home. I'm a fan of those things, which we'll talk about when I get to like tips for you guys. But that wasn't what I needed to do then. I just needed more time and space for my capacity to grow and expand. And it did. And I did learn how to manage both my business and my kids and love both things, with my kids obviously being the big bigger priority over my business. Again, though, it was a slow refining and editing process over time. My brain changed, God changed my priorities and my desires as I became a mom, and my life needed reworking. So if you're in that position, whether it's after one baby or after three, I just want to say, know that it's normal for your life to change and adjust after having kids, and for what you were doing before, maybe not to work the same way anymore in many areas of your life, but especially in business. Some things you were doing in the way you're running your business might not feel like they work well anymore. And it changes slowly over time, and it might change, more with more kids, but it does get easier in the sense of the most drastic change is that 0 to 1 change. And then I think, at least in my own experience, the change becomes less with more kids. Okay. So second thing, that was the first one, that motherhood changed my business slowly over time. Second thing, this transition, but before my first baby, I thought I was already at my capacity with my work. I was doing the most I could. I was working the most I could. I was managing the most. And motherhood showed me that I wasn't even close. And this is where I will say that motherhood is a business superpower. It truly is. Being a mom has shown me that I'm more capable in my work life than I realized, because I've learned and am still learning constantly how to get more done in less time. And I've truly watched my capacity grow, and the same will happen for you. So if you feel a ton of I can't possibly do my business with kids, or I can't possibly do my business with 2 kids or 3 kids, just wait and watch both your heart expand with more kids and your capacity expand in your work, and also probably for your desires to shift some too. And so with each child, I've watched my capacity grow and expand in all kinds of areas, both in and outside of work. I remember so vividly, because it wasn't that long ago, because my youngest is just now almost 9 months old. But when I had just 2 kids, I would be, on all day on my mom days, taking care of my 2 boys, pregnant with my 3rd. And I loved it so much, but I also had the fleeting thought many times that I felt like I could not possibly take care of 3 children. I would have moments where I'm I can barely take care of these 2 alone. I'm outnumbered already. It's so hard. And being even more outnumbered is going to feel impossible. And that wasn't every day, but I did have plenty of those moments, especially when Adam was working late, and it's that 4 to 5 o'clock witching hour where everyone's hungry and tired and there's so many needs and you're exhausted from your day, where I'm oh my gosh, I can't imagine doing this with another one. I was really happy again, but still overwhelmed. And I heard someone share this concept talking about a different thing, but it applies here. And they said that God doesn't grace you for something until he's given it to you to manage. So if you feel a ton of I can't possibly, quote unquote, you're saying, I can't possibly, when you think about running a business and being a mom, or doing all the things you're doing now, but with 2 kids or 3 kids or 4 or whatever it is, God calls you, and then he graces you for it once it's been given. So I didn't feel like I could manage 3 kids on my own until I was literally managing 3 kids on my own with no help, and figuring out how to get 3 kids down for a nap and rest time while my husband's at work, and being strategic and problem solving and managing everyone's emotions. And I feel those things too in my business. Right now, I've shared this before in this series, but right now I run my business on 1 day a week. And I'm not kidding. It actually is just 1 day. It's not 1 day in some evenings. It's not 1 day in early mornings. It's not 1 day in always nap times. It's truly 1 day right now. And will it always be like this? No, I don't think it will. But when I started thinking about how I wanted to be home more with my kids, because that's where I felt like God was leading me, and that was my heart's desire for my family, I remember telling myself and others, as I was strategizing all this, as I processed this, I cannot possibly run my business on less work hours. I'm at the lowest possible. I can't go lower and it all work. I had that, again, what I'm saying of your capacity expands, but I had that thought of I don't think that's possible. I wanted it to work, but I didn't believe it could. And here I am now, and it's working. And that's what I'm saying. God guides you towards it. He calls you towards something, then he graces you for it and gives you the capacity and grows your capacity for it when you say yes to taking the action and doing the thing. So your capacity will grow. It will grow in the way you run your business. It will grow with more children. It will grow as your kids get older and all the different things change. God calls you towards something, and then he graces you for it. So my third point kind of leading into how I was just saying, I work 1 day a week right now. Before kids, I had more time for work. Now I have less time for work, but it is so maximized. And being a mom taught me how to use my time better. So that's my third point to share about. So like I just shared, my work hours have decreased with each child being born. Again, this is what I wanted. And the desire really shifted for me personally when I went from 1 to 2 kids. That was the time for me that I started to desire to be home even more with my kids. I feel like what I was doing when we just had my oldest Colin was like a good balance for me. And I was working more then. And then when I had my second, I was like, I don't feel like that's going to work as much for us anymore. And again, everyone is so different. You may actually have more of the experience where like you run full speed with your business even more with each child. Again, I have friends who have had that more of that experience with their motherhood and work journey. But again, I'm sharing my own experience here. And for me, after having one child, I went from working every day, at least a little bit, having a calendar that was 100% my own, to a really long 6-month maternity leave, and then working like 3-ish days a week. Then after my second was born, it became more like 2 to 2.5 days. And now I'm at 1 day a week, and I'm productive and it is maximized. And I've always been someone who is into productivity and systems type things in business. But my systems and my productivity management has had to change since becoming a mom who works from home with little childcare. And so there have been weeks where with my one workday that week, I am struck that like I got done what I perhaps used to get done in 2 to 3 work days in like 1 6 to 7 hour day, even with nursing breaks. Like I've had days where I'm like, wow, I got so much done. And that's not always the case though. So I've had some days since starting this structure where I feel like I've floundered some in my time and didn't use it well. And I'm like, oh, like I wasted the day away and don't really feel like I did things to move the needle forward, because I am still figuring out like which tasks are the ones that really need my attention in my business and which ones can be like let to go aside when I'm only having 1 day of work. But generally, becoming a mom taught me how to use my time better. And I'm more productive from things like laundry systems in our home to things like running this business on little hours. And I'm so grateful for that. And I've said it before in this podcast, but like being a mom can be a masterclass in getting more done in less time if you let it refine you and let it teach you that skill versus resisting, which again, the refining feels very hard at times. It feels taxing, but it's a good refining and you learn and you grow. I feel like I can't even put words to what I'm trying to say, but it's a refining when you let it happen, and it can feel tough as it's happening. But like, this is a funny example, a non-business example, but I feel like I have to share it with you. But again, funny and vulnerable. But before having kids, okay, I would take forever to do my workouts. Okay. Not because I worked out a super long time. I was working out like 30 to 40 minutes, but because the process was so leisurely for my pre-mom self. So like, again, I've always worked from home forever. It feels like 10 years of this. I would have the house to myself while my husband's at work, and my workout, I'd be like, oh, maybe I'll work out around 2. Okay. I would drink my pre-workout drink at home. I'd slowly get dressed for the gym. I might pause and be like, I'm going to drink this pre-workout slower. And I'm going to do some work things for like 30 random minutes. But maybe I'll check my inbox. Maybe I'll do a little social media post, before I go to the gym while I sip on my beverage. And then I would drive like 15 to 20, 30 minutes, depending on traffic, to our gym. I would take the time to get checked in and get to like whatever workout area I want to do. I'd work out for like 30 to 40 minutes. I'd drive home. I'd take forever to shower or get ready or get back to whatever I was doing. And it was like a long time. So that was not every time. Again, sometimes I was more efficient than that. But that's a funny example of what it was often like for me pre-kids. And that made what was like a 30 to 40 minute workout into like a 2 to 3 hour experience in my day. Again, that's what I'm saying when I said that like when working for myself pre-kids, I was not working 8-hour workdays. I was doing things like that sometimes where my workout takes 1,000 hours. Now to contrast that, I still work out regularly. And now I either work out from home or from our neighborhood gym, which is like a 2-minute drive. Usually from home though. I don't do a pre-workout because I'm nursing, and I've been nursing or pregnant for like 5 years now, it feels like. I get dressed quickly. I just start my workout video on my laptop or on my phone. Literally, we don't have a home gym or anything. It's just like our front room. I have my weights stored. I pull out my weights as I need them in the workout, and I just go. And that makes the whole process basically the length of the video plus like 10 minutes. So the whole thing is like a 40-minute process, maybe even 30 minutes plus hours. And I know it's a silly example, but the change is real and it shows up everywhere. Now a 40-minute workout actually takes 40 minutes. And the same shift has happened in my business too. So less wondering, more doing. doing because I don't have the luxury of time wasted. So I stopped wasting it. And that's something that like motherhood has changed about my business. Now to talk more big picture about a way motherhood's changed my business. Number 4 in my points. This is my last one. And then I'm going to get into my 3 pieces of advice. But before kids, I was in sprint mode when it came to things like goals and achieving things. And now I think about my business in decades, not just quarters. And that's not to say I don't like set quarterly goals. I actually love doing that and have done that. We're at a new quarter right now as I'm recording this, and I just set goals for this quarter. So I still do that, but I think more big picture. And I learned the motto at some point, you probably heard it, I've shared in this podcast, but your career is a marathon, not a sprint. And this is so true and helpful to remember when you feel like your work has taken a step back for your kids. So pre-kids though, I had more sprint mode vibes in my business. I also got really attached to how launches went and how sales and promotions went. Like sometimes my mood would depend on how things financially were going in my business. And now I am more relaxed and I'm able to see a fuller, bigger, longer picture. And I know I can't do all the things. Not all at once, not all today, certainly not all while trying to be a mom and a friend and a wife and a business owner and all these other roles I play as well. And it's like, the way I would describe it is it's like learning which balls are safe to drop. So like if you think about like we all carry these balls in our life, the things we're trying to keep in the air, and some are glass and some are plastic. So which ones are the glass balls that like when you drop them, they will break, and which ones are plastic where they eventually are going to bounce back up to you. And my business has more plastic balls than glass balls, and my motherhood, in my relationship with my kids, in my marriage, in my faith life, those are more the glass balls. Like that's kind of how I define it. And so I think about like what can drop right now and it's going to bounce back. And so when I think about that with business, I get excited for what's ahead and what's next for me, even many years down the road. And I don't know what my business will look like 10 years from now. It's changed a ton from day 1 to year 10. So I imagine like year 10 to year 20, it will continue to look different and make shifts. But again, I think more long-term, not short-term, which means that it's okay if there's a year where I've stepped back and some things look differently because of that. There will be other years in the future where I'm more plugged in and launching more things and doing more, and my business gets a lot more of my hours. Again, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And in this marathon, the run's going to look different at different points, right? And nothing has reminded me more of this than a conversation I had with my own grandmother. So I've shared this story before, but my grandmother, who actually was literally visiting last weekend, which was so fun. I was visiting her at her home in Asheville, but she's 89 years old. She has 4 children, 7 grandchildren, and 7 great grandchildren. Okay. So big legacy from her life. And as her granddaughter, I've always thought of her as such like a successful career lady. So she was the buyer for Kirkland's Home Store when the company started, and she stayed there for many, many years. She had a very successful career as an interior designer. And after becoming a mom myself, I remember like realizing like, wait, like was she doing all that with 4 kids at home? And when my granddad was a minister, so he was a Methodist minister. And I asked her once, like when we were talking, I was like, like I'm thinking about your career. Were you working in those roles and at Kirkland's when your kids were little? And then she said, no, honey, I was a stay-at-home mom for years. And that surprised me because I always thought of her as a career woman. But then she shared with me that no, when she had her 4 kids who were all really close in age, she was staying home, and her career came later, and she still built something so incredible. Like she literally went back to school for interior design and then did that amazing, successful career after her kids were small. And it was such a great reminder for me, and it can be a reminder for you as well, that careers are a long game, and you might look at someone else's success and assume they were grinding nonstop for decades, but you don't see the seasons of their life where they stepped back. Again, whether that season was a longer maternity leave or the season was years of their business while they were raising their kids. So it's a decades thing, not a quarter thing. And that's something I learned. I don't need to be in sprint mode when it comes to like the goals and achieving. I can think of my business more through longevity, and I don't regret whatsoever stepping back more to be with my kids more while they're small. I think that's been one of the best decisions I've made that, again, I know not everyone can do, but for me, I have been able to, which I feel incredibly blessed by. And it's been one of the best decisions I could have made for our family, for my personal goals and what I want, and for even for this business. So now though, I will have 3 pieces of advice for moms who have businesses. And some of these kind of relate to what I've just been sharing about ways my business has changed. And of course, there's more ways my business has changed since becoming a mom, but those were the ones that I felt like kind of had a lesson for you in them and that I felt most compelled to share. So now here are my 3 pieces of advice for you. Number 1, you're allowed to completely step away or step back for a season or permanently. It doesn't mean you're not ambitious. It doesn't mean you failed. You're choosing consciously something different, and you have to make the decisions again and again. And you might change your mind. So this is going to look so different for each person. Maybe for you, it's a longer maternity leave. Maybe it's reducing to 4 days a week of work. Maybe it's that you literally close your business to stay home with your kids. I've seen so many women who I know recently do that. So I don't know what it is for you if you are feeling called that way. But I just want to say, if no one has told you, you're allowed to step back or step away and choose something different that looks less fancy and looks less ambitious in our society. The thing that's the more hidden time that might actually be harder than what you're doing right now in your business. I think raising small children is very challenging and really fulfilling, but also like the days are long. The days are long and the years are short, as they say. So anyway, I don't think anyone has ever regretted, though, choosing to spend more time with their kids while they are little or ever. And for me, I got teary-eyed as I was like, again, thinking about what this episode would be and what I would be sharing. But the other day, I was snuggling my daughter, my youngest, Sophia. We were laying in bed. She was crawling all over me after a big day together. She's 8 months old. And I thought to myself, as I was just sitting there looking at her and how amazing she is and how grateful I am to get to be her mom, that there is no amount of work I could have done or extra money I could have made that would have felt worth sacrificing this time with her the last 8 months. And again, just a disclaimer, I know not everyone is set up financially for this to work for them or for that to be true for you. It has not always been true for me. Again, I said this earlier, but like, my experience with childcare and how much time I've had with each of my babies has been different every single time because my work has demanded different things to me at different times. Our finances have been different each time. So I'm just speaking to my current situation. And as a 3rd-time mom, I saw things differently. Like I see how fast it went by with my boys. And so it felt really important for me to be home with her full time, at least right now while she's little. And again, my boys go to preschool 2 days a week and then I'm home with her the rest of the time. And again, working 1 day a week in the margins. But like I was looking back at the last like almost 9 months now with her fully. And then even going back to stepping back from work more when Colin was born and even more when my son Ethan was born. And I have 0 regrets. So what I will say to anyone listening, if you feel God calling you towards motherhood more than work and business, is just listen and take tiny steps towards the change you want to make. And it's okay to want something different than what you perhaps thought you wanted originally, and to do something different than like what makes sense financially, even in your family, but to go more with like your heart desire for being home more with your kids again, if you can make it work financially. And again, I know I feel like I need to put a big disclaimer on a lot of what I just said. Because again, I'm sharing just like what's been true for me, but like I have had Sophia home with me fully almost 9 months now. And there's nothing this business could have done in the last 9 months that would have felt like, oh my God, I wish I'd worked more on that thing instead of being with her. Like I'm just so grateful to have gotten to be with her. Need some extra pages to improve or add on to your Show It website, but you're not in the market for an entirely new template. Been there. Sometimes you just need a little extra help to save you time as you add new things to your website as your business grows. That's why I put a huge focus on creating Show It add-on templates to meet your needs, including tons of add-ons that you won't find in any other template shop. From pages to promote yourself as a conference speaker, to pages to house information about your podcast, add-on templates to help you build a quiz lead magnet, favorite things pages, Instagram link in bio so you can ditch that Linktree subscription, and so much more. Head to elizabethmccravey.com/shop to see them all. There are so many more than what I just named, and you can even bundle them together to save more. But as a podcast listener, you can also use the code BBPOD to save an additional 15% off on your add-on or full site template purchase for a limited time. If you are hearing this ad right now, that means the deal is available. So go shop now using the code BBPOD. So second piece of advice for you is what you want will likely change. So that's kind of what I was saying, like in point 1 even, but like I've shared this before, you're allowed to change your mind. Too often we make non-permanent decisions feel permanent. These decisions are not. You're allowed to have thought you wanted your motherhood and business to look like one thing and decide you want to try something new, or decide that like your family has changed now because of another child, or because your kids are getting older, or because of a health diagnosis. Anything that changes what you're doing now, you are allowed to change your mind. And at least from my own experience, experience. What I wanted did change from what I originally thought it would be like when I was pregnant and before becoming a mom, what I thought I'd want. And then I settled into life with one child and what I want drastically changed. And then when my second child was born, it changed again in the way some of my work things were. So don't see the desire for change as a negative thing. Embrace it, pray about it, talk about it with your spouse, your friends, your family, process the ideas. And like I shared a moment ago, take action. God leads you and then graces you. So if you're feeling that pull towards something different, that's not weakness, that is direction. And listen to the pull. Don't try to ignore it, and know that like it's normal and healthy that like your desires are going to change, because like we said, motherhood does change you and refine you a lot. And lastly, kind of taking a different direction here, but the thing I want to tell you is your motherhood as a mom who owns a business will benefit so much from you applying some of your CEO skills to motherhood. This could be, that's why I said it feels like a different direction, but this could be its own episode. But oh my gosh, you ladies who are skilled in business, consider applying some of those business skills to your family life. It is fun to apply business and leadership skills to your household and your kids. And I think personally, it makes motherhood feel lighter and feel like it has more direction. Like we don't run a business with no direction. So it's like, why do we run our family and our household with just like hoping for the best, no direction, right? So what do I mean by this? This is all stuff like I personally do with my husband, Adam, but I mean things like putting effort into and trying new systems for managing your family calendar, like letting managing your family calendar be something you care about the way you might care about managing your business calendar. With your meal planning and grocery shopping, like trying some systems with it. I actually, like with goal setting for your family, I actually this year for the first time, so it's not something I've done a gazillion times, but I set goals with my husband for our family for this year, following the same structure I do for my business. Like I literally thought about our family. What do we want to achieve this year as a family? What are things we want to work on with our kids? What are goals we could have as a family for spending time together, for again, growing in certain ways? And I set goals for our family. The household tasks that have to get done every day, like laundry or dishes, like having some systems to it, the way you'd apply systems to your business. Another example, teaching your kids. You guys, I know many of you are like me, but I'm a teacher at heart. Hence this podcast and my courses. Like I truly love teaching, and I've been able to put some of that teacher energy into my motherhood in just really, really sweet ways. And I don't mean sitting down with a workbook with my kids, because honestly, they don't do great with that. But I mean, teaching in other small ways through like activities and conversation. And like, right now, like I said, we have goals for the year. We have the goal to memorize 6 Bible verses this year. So like focusing on one piece of scripture for 2 months and then going to the next one. And that's been a way I've gotten to have a goal, right, with our family, and then work on something together, and do some teaching with that. And just to clarify too, only my 4-year-old is the one actually memorizing the scripture. My 2-year-old is not actually quite ready to do that. But yeah, those are just some examples. But I would ask you, like, what are some things you love about business and that you're good at within your business? And how could you apply those skills to your family? And I promise you, if it's a business skill you enjoy, it can truly be so much fun in your motherhood too. And I know in theory, what I'm saying sounds like it could just be like adding more work to motherhood. But I think if you feel at times like you're a chicken run out with your head cut off vibes in your motherhood day to day, of like there's not structure, you don't really know what you're doing, you don't have a plan, you're just like, just taking care of your kids, like that's more the vibe. Like I'm just trying to get through this. Then applying some of this business stuff to motherhood could actually make motherhood feel lighter and more fun. Again, could be its own episode, but leaving it at that for now. Let me know if you would like an episode on that at some point. And to close now, I just want to say, being a mother is amazing. It's a gift from God, and God chose you to raise your kids. He did not choose some other mom. He chose you, and you have what it takes. And God has not given you more than you can handle with Him, even though I know it feels like that sometimes. I certainly have days where it feels that way. And it's okay to shift. It's okay to step back. It's okay to want something different than what you wanted before. Your business will still be there. And so will you. Just a more refined, more capable, more grounded version of you than before you became a mom. And so to close, I have a poem I love by Jessica Earlrich, I think is how you pronounce her name. I've read her poems on my podcast before, and this is from her book, They Bloom Because of You. And it is just such a beautiful poem that I feel like sums up a lot of what you might feel about motherhood and work and these transitional things. So here we go. They bloom because of you is the name of this poem. You can't do all the things, and I'm not saying not to try, but in this season of thriving here, over there might look a bit dry. You can't give yourself to everything. You can't pour from an empty cup. It's hard to get the to-do list down with little hands reaching up. I know that you've been scrolling, seeing deep cleaning and fancy meals and kids dressed in matching outfits, their rooms with aesthetic feels. But I haven't had time to wash my sheets. There are weeds all through the yard. I'm trying to get some work done, and in this season, it's really hard. So I think we need to normalize, while you're helping small ones grow, that this is important work too, and you might not think it shows. But if I walked into your home right now with mess all over the floor, a baby bouncing on your hip, and rubbish at the door, I'd feel completely welcomed. I know I wasn't alone. Mothering isn't housekeeping. It's not what makes a house a home. It isn't juggling all the things. It's a constant start and stop, forgetting, remembering, overwhelm. It's knowing which balls we can drop. So I see you in the unseen, in this season and what it brings. Being superwoman does not mean doing all the things. It's okay for weeds to grow around all the things you do. Focus on the flowers. They bloom because of you. Oh, I just love that. And I hope those words resonate with you. I will link to that book and that poem as well. But yeah, it's juggling all the things. It's knowing which balls we can drop. And yeah, being superwoman doesn't mean it's doing all the things. I just think that sums this up also beautifully. And that's a lot of what I've learned about motherhood and business is like, it's not doing all the things, knowing which balls can drop. And yes, it's hard to work through your work to-do list when you've got little hands all around you. Even right now for me, as I'm recording this episode, I have approximately 20 minutes left before my work time ends briefly today on my work day, and my husband's about to go do therapy with someone working from home today for him. And I'm about to spend time with my kids until he's done doing therapy. I'm going to go back to working a little bit more on a few other things. So it's a lot of give and take, and it's a beautiful, beautiful journey. So anyway, I hope this episode resonated with you in some ways, and let me know what parts of it resonate with you. I'd love to hear from you. I'm over on Instagram at Elizabeth McCravey, and you can email me anytime at hello@elizabethmccravey.com. And yeah, I just hope this episode blesses you in some way, and I'd love to hear from you. And thank you for tuning in to this 10 years of business podcast series. This is the last in that series. I'll be back sometime soon with a new series on the podcast, but this is the last, summing those up. And if you're new here and maybe you missed the episodes before this one, I've done quite a few episodes right before this talking about things I've learned through 10 years in business, what I would go tell my new business owner self and things like that. So go back and listen to those episodes. You can also find so many other episodes in this podcast about motherhood and business and productivity, working mom life, managing both things. So if you go to my blog, we'll link in the show notes to all the posts and episodes about motherhood, so you can go find those there. And yeah, thank you so much for being here. And if you've been a longtime listener who's never left a review, I just want to ask you real quick as we close, would love to hear from you in a podcast review on Apple or Spotify. Thank you so much. Hope you have a blessed day, and I'll be back soon with more episodes. Bye for now. Hey, thank you for listening to the podcast all the way to the end. I appreciate you being here. And if you enjoyed this episode, then I want to invite you to check out my website template shop too. Over on elizabethmccravey.com, you'll find show it website templates that are easy to use, strategically designed, and created to help you make more money from your website. Maybe your current website is really boring. Maybe it's a challenge to update, and maybe it's even the thing you feel like is holding your business back. Your website needs to be strategically and intentionally designed in order for it to convert your viewers into raving customers, and that's exactly what my templates do. These templates are designed to be SEO friendly on the back end, not just pretty, and also strategic with all the strategies I teach on this show, and they are easy for you to set up all by yourself. So shop them at elizabethmccravey.com/shop and come join thousands of happy customers using these templates. And as an added perk, you can use the code BBPodcast at checkout to get 10% off your template as a thank you for being part of the podcast fam. Again, that's BB Podcast for 10% off any template over on elizabethmccravey.com. Also, if you loved this episode, leaving a rating and review for the show on wherever you're listening or sharing it with a friend is a great way to support this podcast. Thank you again for listening, and I'll be back next week with a new episode.